Let's begin.
Oh yeah, good left. Oh, hey there, scary story fanatics. Welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. Looking for something soft and supple? Have a fleshy desire that you just can't satisfy? Well, grab those dinner plates and bib up. It's time for a whole new perspective on a person you may know with a little story that I like to call Tender Flesh.
Mommy says I'm on a special diet because I'm a special person. I know she loves me a lot, but I wish I could just be like all the other kids sometimes. I find myself wishing I could have some of that school pizza or participate in parties when somebody brings cake, but I can't. Mom says it's because of my allergies. This one time, my friend Evan snuck me one of his cupcakes that he had brought in. Evan was always nice to me. He had this weird-looking birthmark on his cheek that all the other kids would tease him for. I didn't mind. Even though he was nice enough to give me a cupcake anyway, I had to sneak it out of class and into the bathroom to eat it, or the teacher would have taken it away. I knew I shouldn't. I knew that it was a bad idea, that I could really hurt myself. But I couldn't resist. It was like I had never tasted anything sweet before in my life. I marveled at the fluffy texture and the creamy, candy-like frosting. And you know what? I was fine. In fact, I ran home early that day after school, energetically through the front door to tell Mommy what I had done and the result. I was thrilled because I thought this meant I was no longer allergic to at least one thing and that she would be happy too. Mommy hit me. Mommy slapped me across the face, telling me that I had done wrong. I tried to tell her that I was fine, that I had no reaction to the cupcake, but she didn't seem to care. Only repeated that I got lucky and that I was to stick to my strict diet. She asked who I had gotten it from, and I told her Evan. Mommy didn't say much after that, only finished preparing for her and I a lean cut of what she told me was pork, and a mixture of fried grains and beans. Don't get me wrong, I love Mom's cooking, but every night it's the same thing. A cut of gamey-tasting pork and a fried mixture that looked a lot like brown tar and had the texture of breakfast grits. I wish I was like everyone else. The following day, once again I headed off to school. The day passed as a usual one. No birthday parties or events from which I could sneak food from. However, I took note that my friend, Evan, was not at school that day. I figured that maybe, since the day before was his birthday, that maybe he was allowed to have a day off. Lucky him. But then, he was absent the next day. And the day after that. And I didn't know why, but no one seemed to know where he was. I remembered thinking, he's at home, just go check at home. But I began to realize that maybe he wasn't there either. This seemed peculiar to me, and it reminded me of so many instances and people I've met in my short life. A few years ago, Mommy met a man who was really nice to me. Andrew was his name, and he played with me all the time. We'd watch movies together, and he'd make me popcorn. He even taught me to ride a bike. Then, one day, Andrew just stopped coming over. He didn't live with us or anything. He always came over every day. After a few days of him not coming by, I asked Mommy where he was one night at dinner, and if Andrew was ever going to come play with me. Mommy told me that I probably wouldn't be seeing too much of Andrew anymore. This immediately made me very sad and confused. He was my friend, the first real father figure I could remember, and now he was just gone. I asked Mommy why, but she just told me to never mind and eat my dinner consisting of meat and mushy, gritty grains. I wanted to know more. I wanted Mommy to tell me why, but she just told me something along the lines of his free time being too consuming or something like that. I had hoped that maybe someday he would just come back around to see me then, because I liked him. But sadly, he never did. It was at this time that I was startled out of my internal recollections by the sound of my name being called. It was the teacher, and standing next to her was a policeman. My teacher told me that he wanted to talk with me. When I walked up to the man, he asked me if that would be all right, and I said that it was. He seemed really nice, so I was okay talking with him. He led me out into the hall of the school and towards the guidance counselor's office, one I would soon find to be empty. As we walked, I continued forward with my internal thoughts regarding the years prior. I also once had this really great aunt. Aunt Linda, I think her name was. She was really nice and really pretty. Mommy and her were so close. They seemed almost like they were more than sisters. Plus, Mommy has red hair and green eyes. Aunt Linda had long black hair and brown eyes. I remember thinking that for sisters, they didn't look too much alike. But just like Andrew, Aunt Lydia played with me all the time, though my memories of when I was so young are still a little spotty. But I remember how happy she made me whenever she was around, and I remember that she was around a lot. Well, that is until she wasn't. One day, Aunt Linda just stopped coming over or being there. One day, I once again asked Mommy where she was, if she was coming over to see me. Mommy just told me that she moved, and she may not come back for a while. It makes me feel bad, but after a while of her never coming back to visit me and Mommy, I just kind of forgot about her. At this point, we had reached the guidance counselor's office. The cop was really nice to me, and I saw that my teacher had followed in behind us as well. I didn't even hear her following us down the hall. Even though the teacher was there, only the policeman talked to me. At first, he asked me my name and how old I was, asked me if I liked pets and what I liked to do. I told him I liked to color. Then, he asked me a whole bunch of other things, like, when was the last time I had seen Evan, and if he had ever talked about running away. I told him no, that Evan was always really happy, and that his mom and dad were really nice. For some reason, he seemed to kind of ask me the same questions, but in different ways. I kept telling him the same thing, and began to ask myself, why isn't he believing me? Did he think I was lying? Mommy said lying is bad, so I never lie. The policeman finished asking me questions and thanked me for talking to him. I told him he was welcome, and my teacher walked me back to my classroom. The rest of my day was okay. We had recess, and I talked with other friends, still only allowed to have the sandwich that Mommy had packed for me. Some kind of soft meat and mustard. It was okay. I even let my other friends have a bite. But when I got home, something happened that I did not expect. Mommy told me about my real daddy that night. She had never talked about my real father. We were sitting at the table for dinner, and I told her what had happened today about the policeman. Mommy smiled a little from the corner of her mouth and asked if he was nice to me. I told her yes. I told her that they asked me a bunch of questions about Evan, that they didn't know where he was. She told me that she was sure he would turn up and to start eating my dinner. But then I told Mommy about my reflections on Aunt Linda and Andrew and why they were gone too. They never came back, so maybe Evan wouldn't either. That's when I asked about Daddy, if he had just left one day too. Mommy told me that she really loved Daddy, and that she just couldn't get enough of him, that when they met, I was just a baby. This didn't make any sense to me, because how could I be a baby before Mommy met Daddy? But I just figured the stork bird thing just brought me to my daddy early. Mommy said that she loved Daddy so much that pretty soon he was all gone. She said she loved me too, but she loved me so much she wouldn't let me go with him. I asked Mommy what she meant. If she loved him, why would he be gone? I looked down at my plate of meat and mushy grits, and as I stared at the meal, specifically the meat upon my plate, I noticed the odd mark presented upon the seared portion of skin covering roasted flesh. I noticed what looked like an odd-looking freckle, weirdly shaped and oddly familiar. But before I could ask Mommy about it, she told me one more thing. She told me that someday I would grow up fit and strong, kind and tender, and that someday she wouldn't be able to get enough of me either, whatever that means.
Well, I sure hope you savored that little morsel right down to its last birthday. But speaking of which, I wonder if that child in my basement classifies as a dependent or livestock. But if you're snacking while you wait for more terror, don't gorge just yet. Your next main course will be ready next weekend. So come famished for fear. And until then, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.